Greetings and salutations. Unfortunately for you, I'm back with another video. And I am back. And it is kind of an odd time for me to release a video, right? I usually do so Fridays, Saturdays, never in the afternoon on a Thursday. Well, that's because I have been on funeral leave for the last few days. My last day of work was Tuesday, and I won't be returning until Monday. Um, so, for those of you who don't know, um, I've had there's a few guys from YouTube that know and like have a little bit of a peek into my personal life. Retro DM Ray, Steve Fugit, and etc. etc. There's a few, and it's not because I don't trust any of my viewers or subscribers, but because I don't trust the general public in general, and because this is kind of one of those things that privacy is kind of more important, especially when it comes to a time of bereavement. The patriarch of our family, my grandfather, Papal, he passed away Saturday at the age of 82. He shared a birthday with my younger daughter on November the 15th every year. She was born on his 76th birthday. So I was his great granddaughter. And he left behind 4 children, 10 grandchildren, 11 great grandchildren, and one great great grandchild. And he left this world with faith, and it's going to there's going to be a void, not just of wisdom and experience, and yeah, it's just there is a role in which the oldest living member of our family has always enjoyed. We're very clannish in our outlook and in our treatment of family, and with his passing, that it's a pretty immense void. The oldest living member now is my mamaw. She was only a year younger than him. So we have the matriarch still. We don't have the patriarch anymore, and it's just it's going to feel different this year. Christmas, he was always, Christ is always the centerpiece, but in terms of temporal, earthly, get-togethers and such, things that can be grasped with the eyes and the ears and Papa was the centerpiece for it. He had a tradition, of course, of leading the prayer, but as he got older, that he would allow the grandsons to do so before we ate, and um, it's you know you just last time I had a grandparent pass away was 20 years ago almost. So it was yeah, not a feeling I missed. Let's put it that way. But at least with this one lived to a good old age. Uh, Nothing to regret, and a lifetime of experience and a lifetime of wisdom. Very wise man. I'd see him out on my Monday routes occasionally. He was very much a creature of habit. He really enjoyed eating Hardee's for breakfast and Captain D's for dinner. Uh, Biscuits and fish, and that's pretty much what he loved. A good, sharp, thick piece of cheddar cheese. Um, Back when he still had teeth, he liked chuck wagons, and he liked a good, thick slice of bologna. And as he got older, the slices became thinner and thinner. What he could handle, what he could chew up. And I'd run into him. Usually, I'd be delivering at a customer that was right next door to the Hardee's, and I'd go see him, talk to him for about 15, 20 minutes. So that's an experience I'm going to very sorely miss. We laid him to rest yesterday, which is one of the reasons why I try to be secretive about this kind of stuff, because, like I said, it's not that I distrust my audience. It's the fact that I do know that I have a lot of people that hate watch me, and this is definitely kind of one of those things that if they did put two and two together, they would try to, you know, they wouldn't make it out of the funeral home alive. Let's put it that way. So, that being said, Uh, but just to kind of give you where I've been at, it was quite. He passed. It seemed quite sudden. He passed away at 3:30, roughly, Saturday afternoon, and lifetime experience, lifetime of accomplishment. Um, I've done quite a bit of grieving, quite a bit of mourning. I'd say that's not over, but I'm kind of pushing along a bit better now, because his troubles are over, spiritually and physically. He was a man that was ready to go in both senses of the word. And we knew eventually one day, the big one, he was a man that had a history of strokes. And we knew eventually the big one would come one day. And I guess just this time of year, you just kind of take for granted, and you just kind of say, we'll have him for one more Christmas, Just wasn't to be. So he belonged to God, as we all do. And so God simply took what was his. And it's painful for us left behind, but his troubles are over. And so, trudge along with the good memories and the good examples. And yeah. So, anyways, figured I'd tell you guys I'm back. Originally, I was only going to take off for the funeral, but my boss, who was on vacation, he called me Tuesday. He said, "Hey, because I kept them posted on like the arrangements and stuff." He's like, "Hey, I know you were originally just going to take off the day of the funeral." He goes, "Take the 3 days." He goes, "Go ahead and take off Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Wednesday being uh, the actual funeral. His visitation was Tuesday night, so I got there right when it started to open up for immediate family. So I was able to make that." And my boss was like, "You wanna take them?" He goes, "I promise you." He goes, "I know you think the way you do. Why you think that?" He goes, "I'm telling you, work doesn't take your mind off of it." So he goes, "Your job will be waiting for you Monday." He goes, "We got somebody that's going to cover. Don't worry about it. Just go ahead and take it." He goes, "You're a good worker. Just go ahead and take it." He goes, "You're not hurting our feelings." He goes, "And look, if you're worried about the paycheck, it's basically like vacation pay, only a bit sadder. It's not like you're having fun doing this, so just go ahead and do it." And, the past several days I've been talking about Papaw, very smart alecky man. My favorite memory was one at I have 3 siblings. I'm the oldest of 4 kids. And my sister, that's a year younger than me, she played softball a lot in school. And we were at a game, and uh, one of my sister's friends, her mom was there. She was all like primed up and stuff like that, makeup, like hair done and everything. And this is like kind of back when women curled their hair more and actually like put a lot more heavier hairspray in it than they typically do now. And Papa was there, and he just kind of looks over at this woman because she's talking with mom and dad because her daughter is like one of my sister's best friends, and my papa goes, "You kind of remind me of a movie star," and she's just like, "Oh, really? Which one?" Kind of doing this thing, fluffing her hair a little bit, kind of, and he goes, "Yeah, Lassie." so, so uh, that's one of my favorite memories, and he was a hard working man, but well, I think one of my cousins put it this way: he worked the hardest when he was trying to get out of work. So, but he worked. He was a railroader for most of his life. He worked track and bridge, so he was away from his family and away from home a lot. Whenever he worked. So there you go. He was the prime example of what a man should be. When I think of him, I think often of 1 Timothy chapter 5 and verse 8, because when Paul is talking to Timothy in his epistle, he's giving good instruction for the Christian life and for seeking office in the church, in the local congregation, the responsibilities that come with it and how gravely serious those particular requirements have to be. It's not a participation trophy. It requires a lot, and it requires not just a lot at the church itself, but a lot from the personal life of the officer in question, bishop, deacon, elder, pastor, whatever term you wish to use here. And Paul writes that whoever doesn't provide, even for his own household, is worse than an infidel, worse than a non-believer, because you claim the faith and yet you don't provide for your own family. And my papa epitomized that in every which way. And I think of Proverbs chapter 22, in which, wisdom is instructed from the previous generation going into the next generation, so that the next generation is well equipped to answer for when their day comes, that somebody else comes to them for wisdom. And then the company that you keep, that a wise man will not be in the company of somebody that throws hands, that is violent, that is lackadaisical with monetary and economical situations, that they are constantly in debt, and that such a man that is diligent in his business and his skills in his occupation will stand before kings. He will not stand before the company of debased, ill reputable men. Then, of course, the thing I think of most, of course, is my favorite verse, which is Psalm 116 and verse 15, in which, precious in the sight of the Lord is the death of his saints. So, and it comes to the finality of this earthly life. When my grandfather passed away at 3:30 on November the 29th, I don't believe he closed his eyes and didn't wake up necessarily. His body may have done that, but as far as his soul, as for the person, that he closed his eyes here and then opened them into eternity. And he knows more about Christ now than anybody down here can even claim. So that's the way I've approached it. And so it's been a little difficult. It's never easy dealing with the loss of a loved one. I still have my parents and my brothers and sisters and my children and my wife. So, I'm blessed with the ones I still have. I was blessed to be this man's grandson. There's a special kind of role that grandparents and grandchildren kind of like. There's a special relationship that they enjoy that's different than, like, I'm not saying you don't love your mother or your father, but there's just something more, different with the grandparent relationship. It's a lot more there's still the disciplinarian aspect. It's not like they're going to let you run wild. Papa certainly didn't, and he certainly wasn't afraid to cut a switch if he needed to. That being said, we didn't give him a reason very often, and in fact, I don't ever recall him whooping me one time in my life. He was a man that commanded a lot of respect, but he was also a man that had a lot of fun and would get up to things and be like, "Come on, we're going to go do something real quick," jump in that old pickup. And then, when he couldn't physically drive that anymore, and he had to switch to an automatic transmission Toyota RAV4, which, I mean, you want to talk about it. If he had any hair left, he would have pulled it out. The idea gave him conniptions, but whatever. It got him from point A to point B, which is what he cared about the most. So because his motor skills, when you have strokes, they just kind of start. That's what deteriorates. And so we go somewhere, usually to the old country store that was just down the road, or we go out into town. So the man never met a stranger. I mean, they put that in his obituary. He never met a stranger. That was very true. He got to know you, and it was a privilege to know him, but it was a blessing. It was a gift to be a member of his clan. without God, none of us would be here. But of course, without this man, I wouldn't be here. My dad wouldn't be here. My children wouldn't be here. So that was the progenitor of our line, and yeah, it's painful. He's gone, but at the same time, a life well lived. No regrets. So, anyways, just kind of wanted to give an update to some of you guys. I'm fine. I'm good. I'm taking the bereavement process from work to deal with it the way that I need to deal with it. My children are fine. My wife is fine. I believe my wife bawled more than I did, to be honest with you. And I'm just saying, I did a lot of squalling for the last few days, so my throat, I've screamed my throat bloody. So, um, which is kind of why I sound the way I do right now. That being said, he touched a lot of lives. So, and the idea, I'm going to keep rambling on, but I do want to say this because the idea of a good man is something that is almost totally absent in today's culture. Um, it comes preloaded with having to define the terms good man, and then it comes preloaded with the nebulous concept of what makes a good man, and then it comes preloaded with the assumption that you can be a good man. And I'm a firm believer, in opposition to what subjective relativism teaches, that it's all a matter of perspective. I believe that you can define a good man, number one, because of his status with Christ, and number two, with how he treats his family, runs his household, keeps things in order. Number three, his work ethic. Number four, the company he keeps, and just and how he treats his fellow man. And I can say at the end of the day that my papa was a good man. Um, there is no doubt between any of us where he is. None of us had to wonder where he slipped into eternity. There is not a single one of us that believes he is in hell or that he didn't know Christ. He was very much not shy about it. I'll tell you that right now. He was very much. I mean, that old man went to church sick more times than I could count, and uh, I have to laugh, and I want to tell this one real quick because uh, the uh, the kind of greenhorn pastor, what he calls himself, of my papa's church, he spoke yesterday. He came down here like 4 years ago, and to be one of the pastors of the church that my papa attended. And there was an evening, and I'm going to try to give the Cliff Notes versions of this story, but there was an evening in which papa didn't know if he could make it, and then that pastor said, "Look, we can figure something out. Meet me here. We'll come get you, and then we can try to figure out how we're going to get you home. It's no big deal. We can figure it out." And then that pastor said, at some point during the day, he kind of got busy, and then he realized, and then somebody said, uh, my papa, I'm not going to give my papa's name over the internet, but he's here." And then that's when that pastor suddenly realized, "Oh, I forgot." And he's like, he said, "I was dreading talking to him when I go out in the parking lot." And I was like, "Hey, how you doing?" And then my papa, who's on the cell phone, because he did have a cell phone towards the end of his life, he was on the phone with my mama, was like, "I'll be right back. The lying pastor is here." And so they just kind of joked about it the whole entire time, for the rest of his days. But you know my papa, he doesn't have the motor skills issues he has anymore. He doesn't need the cane that he had. He doesn't need the walker that he had. He doesn't need the boot that he had. Last year he struggled with a fall. He fell through the porch, his back porch. He fell like 7-8 feet to the ground and broke his foot. And my papa was diabetic, and he broke his foot, and it caused a MRSA infection, and they had to do a skin graft on his foot, and they didn't even know if they could save his foot because where he was diabetic, and because last year he was 81, so he's already kind of well on in years. And I mean, when I tell you the pictures, ooh man, because mom showed me the pictures several times. I was like, ooh man, oh man. And then of course whenever we go see him, of course he needed to air it out, So you just try not to look at it. You just kind of ask him, "How's it doing?" You don't want to look over because it's like, that kind of thing. But he was a tough old mule, and he just kept going. He might moan and groan about it. Be pretty audible that he was in pain, but um, he would keep trudging forward, one way, shape, or form. One way, shape, or form. It didn't matter how fast he was going to go; he was going to keep going forward. He doesn't have that issue anymore. He doesn't have an issue recalling names, recalling faces. He never forgot my name, even after all the strokes that he had. So, um, there was a few people he struggled with. He knew who you were, but he just couldn't think of your name right off the bat. So it just kind of, and that also comes with getting older too. In addition, the strokes didn't do him any favors on that. Um, so he doesn't need the walker or the cane or the ankle boot, any of that anymore. He won't need those big old spectacles that he would wear whenever he tried to read anymore. Um, he's in a much better place. That that recliner is going to be empty when we go over there for Christmas this year. But heaven's got a recliner for him, so you know that's how I approach it. So it hurts for us that are left behind, but my dad even said, it's a lot better off. He's a lot better off now, and I know, and it's not goodbye, you know. So, as always, guys, take care. God bless. I'll see you on the other side. You guys, you know, just try to make sure you keep with your loved ones, and uh, don't ever leave without telling what you think of them. The cool part was I did see my papaw quite frequently, even when I had to work, because I'd see him out on the town. He was a creature of habit, like I said. So I would go make time to talk to him. I wish I would have made more time on my off days to go see him. We all kind of wish that. You know, uh, we all kind of wish that. At the same time, would anything have been different? Not really. So the conversations would have all gone the same, which is fine. It just would have been more time, which everybody always wishes for. So, as always, guys, like I said, again, I'm talking your ear off, but take care. God bless. I'll see you on the other side. Hope you guys had a wonderful Thanksgiving, and hope you guys had a wonderful week, and I hope you guys are staying warm. It's starting to drop a little bit outside. Luckily, we haven't really had anything besides flurries. It's just been bitter cold. So keep warm and please keep safe. This is that time of year where, okay, PSA, one little thing before I go. PSA, roads are dangerous this time of year. Conditions and people traveling for holidays and such. So give a little extra room to your fellow drivers out on the road. Be ever vigilant. Be defensive, not offensive. And if you're somebody that's pulled over on the side of the road, please turn on your flashers. Turn on your four-way flashers. For those of you that are still driving, you see somebody on the shoulder or at the side or whatever, slow down and try to move over if it's possible. And then for those of you that are re-entering the roadway from that stop, please don't just throw yourselves on at like 5 or 10 miles an hour. I can't stand that, and that's what causes accidents. You are supposed to pick up speed on the shoulder, if possible. So, if it is possible, pick up speed before you enter the roadway, preferably somewhere in the neighborhood of 45 to 55 mile an hour, okay? Please do that. Just take care of yourselves out there. Be mindful, and just have yourselves a good, safe weekend, because it looks like that it's going to be pretty cold, and we might get some inclement weather too. So uh, you guys might end up, I'm sure some of you have already dealt with it, and some of you have already dealt with several inches, because I've seen the pictures. They ain't good. They don't look like fun. So again, for like a fourth or fifth, I've lost count. Take care. God bless. I'll see you on the other side.